Xbox finally received its debut God of War title, or other War Gods, Zeus of Child. Um, the most, I mean, the footage is likely playing out on screen now as you see it, and suffice to say, it's not Kratos' finest hour. Um, this is just a really bizarre story. Definitely, we're in the midst of the silly season. John, let's talk about this. You've been playing it.
Been
I've been
playing
playing it.
it.
We have the exclusive multi-platform comparison of how this remarkable game plays out on all Xbox systems. But there's a bit of a weird story to this.
Yeah, so we've been playing it, quote unquote, because there's really not much to it. You're in this arena, you have a Kratos model, enemies spawn forever. There's no collision detection. There's no animation when walking backwards. You just sort of, press buttons and the score goes up until you die. And I guess so. It's kind of like, what is this? And here's what made it weird, right? Like, how the heck did this end up on the store? We wanted to know. And there actually is an answer to it, although now it has actually been removed. This is not Life of Black Tiger. It's technically worse, and it probably shouldn't have ever appeared on here in the first place, I suppose. Rich, like,
Yeah.
what did you find about how this came to be? Because it's super weird.
Well, it started last Tuesday where Wesley Yinpo on Eurogamer just was sort of delving deep into the depths of Reddit and discovered a small discussion about this game. And seemingly somebody had sneaked on a game onto the Xbox marketplace that was total trash, that was essentially, basically starring
Yeah,
Kratos.
they ripped the model.
uh, they just basically ripped the model, stuck it into Unity, created. Um, I struggle to call it a game, a time wasting exercise
Hmm.
probably,
Hmm.
and then it was available for I think I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days on the Xbox store. You could download it. John and I both bought it. You
Wow.
know, in the interests of preservation,
Yeah,
of
of
course,
course.
because we knew that it would be deleted as soon as Microsoft were
And
aware
it
of it.
was.
But it was, yeah, within 24 hours. The question is really, how on earth did this happen? How on earth did somebody just, uh, lash up something in Unity starring Kratos, stick it on the Xbox store, and profit essentially? And it turns out that similar to, I guess, the Google Play, possibly the App Store on Apple, there seems to be a way to sneak in games that essentially have no oversight from the platform holder whatsoever. And in this case, it's the Xbox Creators Collection,
Yeah.
where you can put anything on there, absolutely anything. Microsoft does not review the content, although it might start to in the wake of this. And yeah, this is what you get. Just I wouldn't even call it shovelware because shoveling involves effort. There was no effort put in on this whatsoever. And yeah, so it's basically the Wild West. Anybody can get a title uploaded onto the Xbox marketplace via this creators collection. There's no achievements, there's no oversight from Microsoft in any way. If you search for it on the Xbox store, it won't come up. Um, yeah, essentially, you kind of I had to use Google to find the page, and there's some interesting stuff to it. First of all, it's seemingly compatible with HoloLens,
Oh yeah.
and secondly, although it doesn't actually have an official PEGI rating, it was self-certified as PEGI 18, extreme violence.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
rating thing that confused me, actually. It's like, wait, this seemed to have ESRB and PEGI ratings, but I guess it's just the whole thing is fascinating to me. I actually think it's really cool that they allow this kind of thing where you can just essentially upload your creations. It almost turns the Xbox into like a Roblox like platform, which is cool, I think.
yeah.
But obviously, there are some constraints to consider, and although they don't seemingly monitor what goes online, I guess this one sort of crossed some lines, I suppose.
Well, I'll tell you what, John, when you first boot it up and you get that Made in Unity flash that comes up, I had to laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I do think some stuff like this, I do think gives it probably contributes a little bit to the sometimes unfair distaste people have for Unity games, because I think Unity can be an amazing engine, but there's definitely sometimes issues. But more importantly, due to the way it works, it is fair, compared to other solutions. It's a good solution for getting just anything built and made that you might ever dream of, right? It's really good for this kind of thing, even though technically here they really didn't make a game. I'd say it's just a few parameters that they set up, and it's just a little test thing, which is funny. But the fact that they're charging money for it, and in fact they have accosted upwards of $8 from Digital Foundry now. It's a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah, it's something.
Sounds like you were mugged by the game, John.
It
Like,
feels
just,
that
like, came
it
up to
feels
you.
that way sometimes when this showed up.
Well, first of all, when we saw this, I mean, it was a game running on Xbox. The only slight indication that we had that something was amiss was that John couldn't use my copy. It said that there was a device limitation in
That's
play on
right.
my Microsoft account,
That's weird.
which happens on Windows Store games.
Yes. Well, we were
on
actually
PC.
removing Xbox because obviously being Digital Foundry, we have a lot of Xboxes between us. I think I myself have upwards of like 5 or 6 different Xbox systems. All of us have a lot of Xboxes, right? So we log into these accounts with many Xboxes, and it was not unthinkable that we might have reached some sort of arbitrary limit. But it turns out that just removing the Xboxes from the accounts had no impact, because it was actually UWP, or the Windows stuff, that was having an issue, and that is limited, it seems, to 10 systems.
Yeah, that's right. Something like that. Yeah. Which is extremely annoying, totally arbitrary, and should be removed, by the way. It's another annoyance of
I had that
dealing with the
recently
Windows
with
Store.
Forza Horizon 5, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had it with my account
Yep.
too, and I found, I mean, all my old PC builds were in there, and like several Xboxes, including like the old
Yeah.
VCR Xbox was in there.
It goes back to like 2005, and you're like, I don't even remember this PC.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Right.
wait, what was that? And it's like, okay.
So, just imagine this game appearing and, Digital Foundry potentially covering it, because we were thinking of
It almost
covering it,
happened.
because before we sort of dug deeper and discovered the creator collection and what it actually is, we were thinking, the first question I asked John is this worse than Life of Black Tiger on PlayStation 4?
I said yes.
And your answer was yes, because
Absolutely.
that was actually a game.
Well, actually, the first concern we had was like, let's make sure that this wasn't made by like a kid or something, who just likes God of War and wanted to do something like, because I wouldn't want to trample on their dreams, because if a little kid threw this together, learning Unity or something, that's cool. But this has a company behind it, and that company has produced many games of similar quality. You can find them, actually, if you search for War God Zeus of Child and their publisher. You'll find a lot of games on this store.
Isn't one of them like a Fall Guys ripoff starring Yoshi?
There's something like that. There's like a bus driving simulator. There's a range of different games, and most of them are ripoffs. So it's just asset flips.
So, John, I mean, everybody wants to know. Now we have established that it is a bona fide company, not a child. Everybody wants to know the DF analysis. And you looked at, I can't believe I'm saying this, Xbox Series consoles. I looked at Xbox One and Xbox One X. Take it away.
I mean, it seems to be 1080p, and it targets 60 frames per second, and has lots of weird like Unity stutters and issues along the way. It's yeah. I mean,
It's a game.
It runs. It's not a game, Alex. It's not.
It's
I
not
would
a
argue. The lack of collision detection is especially enjoyable because you can just walk out of the arena and float through the air. But what I love about it is that they spawn enemies with the same animation, and they all kind of like clump together. But when you move far away from the center point, they accelerate like the foes spawn in the arena, and then to get them to Kratos quickly, they sort of accelerate them right up to the player. So you'll start seeing enemies moving faster and faster up into the point that they join the pack. So hot tip for everyone, if you're playing this game, wait till all the enemies are in one giant clump of dude, and then just swing your axe a couple times, and you'll immediately get a high score.
Amazing scenes. So yeah, obviously, I mean, there's a lot of a discussion at the moment about Xbox Series S. How does that hold up?
It's the same.
Okay.
What about Xbox One?
Well, I first of all played on Xbox One X, just to leverage the full power of the 6 teraflop GPU, and 60 frames per second. But basically, whenever there seems to be some kind of attempt at figuring out collision detection, you get these massive jarring frame rate drops. And but yeah, there it is. I mean, remarkable stuff.
I mean, we tried to
Again,
play it on PlayStation, couldn't do it. It doesn't work.
You know
It
what that
doesn't work.
means?
So, I mean, I'm just saying, like,
yeah, I mean, we didn't fight on HoloLens, but
I would actually like to see that. Imagine living in that arena.
and yes, so that was Xbox One X, and I'm afraid to say Xbox One, it targets 60 frames per second. You get the same lurching collision drops, which seem to be worse, but it can't hold 60 frames per second. It's
So,
it's actually
almost 9 years later, you know, we go from Rise, Son of Rome at the launch of Xbox One to this. I'm going to go ahead and say that Rise, Son of whatever is the
God
superior
of
game.
Thor.
Rise, Son of Rome from Crytek, no less. Which, by the
Yeah.
way, it's still a gorgeous game, and if you haven't played that in a while,
stupendous
I
looking.
do
Yeah.
recommend busting it out. And if you play it on a more modern Xbox, it also at least solves the frame rate dips that occurred on that original launch unit. So, yeah, still
But
still a good game.
unfortunately, for some reason, it's 31 FPS, right? Isn't it?
Oh,
Doesn't
I
have that
know it has
issue?
that stupid 31 FPS issue. Yeah,
Oh,
so
man.
that's a shame. But the game is still gorgeous, so
Game's great.
and there's a
VRR
great
that thing.
PC version.
it does.
So yeah, War Gods, Zeus of Child, remarkable name. But it's in the game they seem to be calling it God of Warning. But yes, that certainly livened up our week. And wow, what can I say?
Yeah, we just wasted
it was-
what, like, I don't know, 15 minutes talking about this. Sorry.
Wasted.
We apologize, Digital Foundry viewer. It won't happen again until it does. I don't know.
Until there's a sequel. Until the sequel comes out.
Exactly.